3 seconds. Okay, there we go. So the pasuk that he's quoting, pasuk in the beginning of Bresh, is v'totzeh haaretz dasha. So it's a drushes about what does dasha mean. A Messiah, he said kad shma isnita, with the name, and we went through this yesterday. When the name of Yud K Vav K is planted, then a viranofik, then some kind of an air comes out. Okay, the nitzutza is damen, and then there's this other concept of a nitzutz, which is a fire of some sort or something hot. Okay, we were in the middle of number Gimel. Not the middle of it, but we're at the end of number Gimel. Is there a Dalet down here? Gimel. Here's Dalet. Okay. So let's look over here at number Gimel. He says, Nishlam Gadlus Hanukva. She grows to her full height. Azai Gama Nukba Bebechinis Nitiya. So then she becomes into that same concept. But also in the Ember Apostle, then the Apostle says Beresh and Breshus. He says Vayita Havaya Elokem. He has these two names. The Hain of Zer V'Nuk. So we understand that Elokem is, I guess, Lashon Bina, it's Lashon Nuk. So yeah, it goes into Bina, it goes into Malchus. So we have Havaya, the Hain of Zer V'Nuk, Havaya Elokem. Like I said above, Sha'amar is Akar Mehai Aser. It's uprooted from that place. Shemadah, this name. V'ishtil Ba'achro. And I think we probably saw these pasukim previously, but I'm not sure. That is planted in this word Achra in another place. Sounds like another place. Ketziv V'yitach Havaya Elokem. Ubir b'shar mamari Rashi was explained by Zelda Shona v'achar kach ne'echer v'yotza l'chutz zer anpin. So then it goes outside of zer anpin. Maybe I got this wrong, but we'll try it again. V'achar kach ne'echer v'yotza l'chutz zer anpin im nekevaso. So the two of them go out. Besod haleda, and they're born. The secret of birth. Shehoya techila, because they were at the beginning. B'socha Bina, inside of Bina. Now, Alamin bebechinas Ivor, that's that stage. V'zehu masha ama is akar mahai aser. This is what it means, that it comes out of the place of Bina, where the two of them were found. And we had that thing he brought up about du partzufim, which is Dalet and Vav, and make the hay into a Dalet and a Vav. There you saw that the Dalet came first. I don't know if I'm getting my head of myself or this I'm reviewing. I don't know which. So he said, V'kashen is Galo, that is what? Zer V'Nuk. Now they're outside of the inside of Bina, or Ima. Nikra B'Vaya Elokem. That's when you see this name of Vaya Elokem. V'Zera B'Masha Amar Ksiv, quote in the Pasuk, V'yita Hashem Elokem. That's why you have that name, Ad Kan V'Rei Ma Sheniz Boyer La'el Sham. I think he talked about it. Let me get a little drink here. Let's drink a... Oh, I have no drink. Well, there's a little in here. 1 second. I find that if you're going to go to speak, you have to have water around, because tea is no good and coffee's no good. It gets into my throat. It kind of clogs it up. Anyway, let's go on. So that was number Gimel. So we're going to go to number Gimel in the text, or in the... So he says, just looking here, the title of the piece that we're looking at is Zayin Tikuni Gugolta de Zer Anpin. That's supposed to be what we're talking about here. So we went through various different things, but I know we mentioned the Gugolta, but let's see what else we have. Number Gimel, we're going to read behind number Gimel, and we'll read to number Dalet. Now we're going to explain that. So Kabbalah's mochin the MAKIFIM shall Abba va'ima, that he is able to maintain that or receive that from Abba va'ima. Rabbi Ha'aros La'el, so he says, we had some notes on this, he said, up above. Sheiz bar b'shem the Eitz Chaim, over there it explains in the name of the Eitz Chaim, Shal mochin the MAKIFIM elu, so these mochin which are MAKIFIM. Now the thing about MAKIFIM is they're shining from the outside of their outfit. But the very strong light of the Ein Sof. I don't really understand them exactly. So he says, they come along as their anpin is growing. Let's see what try to understand this. This is the Lamed Mem of the Tzelem. And as Nimshachim godless, which is the tzadi the Tzelem is bringing the godless into their anpin, he's starting to grow. Elu Nimshachim begodless their anpin kashuhu bebechinas yud gimel v'yom echad ein sham. Now, I mentioned the last time because it's obvious that you have to figure out what Yud Gimel Shana means. But he says Yud Gimel V'Yom Echad, so that throws me off a little bit. I tried that definition there. It's like 13 meters of Rachamim. Then I know that in the Sefer Yetzirah, there's something called Olam Shana Nefesh. And actually, Yaakov Cronenberg talks about it, but it was over my head. I just couldn't really quite get it. I just know the phrase. So here's the word Shana. So exactly what it means, it is the number 355, which is not 365. It's really close to 354, which is the count of the moon. I don't know. Just throwing things out. Behind the Bona parts of Hanukva, at the time that the parts of the Nukva is growing. Shu Gam came B'Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad. Now here's another thing. We have a Bas Mitzvah. I don't know why this guy has 12 years in a day. And it has other legal connotations as well. Here he says, is Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad Kanal V'Ha'aros B'Shem the Eitz Chaim. He says, L'Shar Lamed Daled Perek Daled. He says you'll find that over there. Talked about it. Okay, well, we'll see what else we have here. So let's go to number Daled, and we're going to read Daled, and we have to read it all the way through because it ends at the end, and then we'll start going into what he says there, and if we can, we'll get to the back. So I prepared to go to the back for being in Passaic. I don't know what's going to happen over there. So we'll see. There's a wedding. My son-in-law, my son's sister-in-law is getting married. So that's why we're going. Okay, let's find the number Daled and let's read along here up above. There we go. Va'amar then avira nofik. Now that's one of the hard. Then some kind of air or vapor, something like that, something less than visible, let's say, comes out. Ki oz yatzer benetzach hod yisod the abbas for the nai the abba bebechinas makifim the mochin the abba. So he says this is going on the phrase, which is not 100% understandable, is that then the Avira goes out, and he says, what is this? It comes out from the Nai of Abba, and it comes out, when it comes out of the Nai of Abba, I guess he's saying it's out. So therefore it's a Makif. Something like that. The Mochin the Abba. Shasharshem bebechinas chesed elyon hanikra avira, and the root of these makifim is from the upper chesed. Probably talking about the chesed of Atik. I'm not sure. Then it says the word hanikra avira. This chesed is called avira. The nitzutza is damen, but then also prepared at the same time as this nitzutza, this fire kamokain is damen v'yatz benetzachod yisod the ima. Bechinas makifim the mochin the ima. So just tracing this back, he says, kamokain is damen v'yatz benetzachod yisod the ima. Also makifim. These are the makifim. They go along with the mochin the ima. Now, let me just go backwards just a second. Is that when we're talking about the mochin, the benim, we're talking about the lamed mem of the tzelem of ima. The tzad of the tzelem is going to zeranpin, into zeranpin. So these are this concept in the tzutzos, which is He wants to keep it on the left side. He wants to say that the left side of Ima Shesharshim Mibechinis Gvura, where they have a root in the concept of Gvura Elyona. This is Gvura of Atek. Hanikrid Tzutza. It's called a spark. Behind the Butzina de Cardenusa, so he wants to keep playing this phrase. Butzina de Cardenusa, and every time I look up the word Butzina, it says lamp. And it just doesn't really strike. Lamp and spark don't go together exactly. I don't think it's the right translation. But it is some source, electrical source, or some sort of fire. The Cardenusa, that phrase. So now you have these two sets of MAKIFIM. You have the MAKIFIM ba'aba, which are avira, he says, and the MAKIFIM ba'ima, which he says are these nitzutzos. So he said MAKIFIM elo nisakti b'bechinas golgolta. So that's the point he wants to make. The point he wants to make is that these two MAKIFIM are what his word is nisaking. So picture it like this, it's blobbish. And then come along the MAKIFIM and they mold it. How about that? Does that work? That metaphor. And they are molders of the skull. My words. MAKIFIM elo nisakim bebechinas agogolta shel zer anpin kamoshi yizbar bechemshek, and he says in Sif Tes Zion, which is the next one after this one. Okay, so we have some arichos here in number Hey. And I didn't see any reason why we shouldn't look at this, and let's see what it says. He says, just similar to what we have here now. It's like avira nofik. We had this phrase, the avira nofik. And then it says, on the chad gugolta is pasha besitroi. So sitroi is questionable what it means exactly, but in that area of the gugolta, there's his pashtos there, of this avir. But seemed to gum be'id Rabbi. So now he's comparing different places that we saw this kind of language. The nafek avira dachya, the nafek chad gugolta. So now we say avira and gugolta seem to be paired up. But avira dachya is shtoiv nitzutza, and from this avira dachya, then you're able to draw this nitzutza. Now his words are chad gugolta. Well, Bahai Avira, in Avira, which he says another word for Chesed, Dachya, Ishtoiv, that draws into itself a Nitzutza. Is that what it means? What does Ishtoiv means? It means drawing, like drawing water. Begin Kach Hai Gugolta Ispeshat Besitroi Adkan, and that's the reason why the Gugolta spreads or extends itself. And I guess Sitroi, I'm not sure what it means. It means its side, but it means in its place. Adkan. So his ayin sham ba'orach v'ra'inin is bacher ba'arichot be'etz chaim. V'chon negei le'inyanenu, what's about we that can mochin the godless is there anpen meluvashi b'nai the abba ve'ima. No, okay. V'kol nekenisal secha b'soch rosh zer anpen, but before they come into zer anpen, you have it sided at Salam here. Miss notes it, but that's not what he's saying. V'kol nekenisal b'soch rosh zer. Before the Tzadid Tzalim enters into the head of Zeranpin, Misnotzes Oram, the white sparks, the chutz besod or makif, in the concept of an or makif. Now look, how he describes this. He says the Abba V'Ima Kodem Kenisas Besok Rosh Zeranpin Misnotzes Oram, their light starts to spark. Sparking is Lashon Din, or Gevura. The Tzosigorim, Luchutz, outside, and that is where this or makif comes from. At least if you talk about Ima, he says that Ima was the source of the MAKIFIM of fire. Vuhan Nikra Be'etz Chaim Sham, it calls over the B'Shem B'Bechinas a Reviz. Okay, so apparently there's a concept, there's a counting over there that we mentioned. There was a Reviz. V'zel Shona, this is what it says, number Dalet, he says. Ki gam mis notzes oram b'bechut shel nai the ima, because we have the same thing. Outside of the nai of ima, light comes out. This light is the light of a makif. the ima besod or makif. V'da ki or makif zeb hu iker mitzius or hamakif. That this makif here, what? Is what we find here, the reality of this makif, atzmo, the zer anpin. So this makif is the makif that's going to become the makif, the zer anpin. It came out of ima, that's what he's talking about. Or makif zecha b'hu iker mitzius, or makif atma, the zer anpin. Umeir b'chu misham malamal, so it shines over there from that place, going upwards. B'hi yosu sham b'chutz the nai, because now it's outside of the nai of ima. So this is what we understand. So now he's really telling us. You ever wonder what goes on with the lamed and the mem? So the lamed and the mem actually come out of the nai of ima, or he's talking about ima right now. And it's going to become the makif for zer anpin. So it's okay. So anyway, the ima makif the zer anpin ad kan. V'kol zecha b'ku gam b'nai da'abi, the same thing. V'mochim halalucha b'nikroim avi ridakia v'nitzutza. Al shem shorsha ma'el yon b'chesed the gevura the erik anpin. Now he's not saying atik. He says b'chesed gevura in zer anpin, because zer anpin is immediately mashpia to Abba ve'ima, which produces this. So from the power of these makifim, tikkun gulgalta the zer anpin. So this starts. These makifim are. It seems to me in my mind that it's like molding. They're shining this light of the Ein Sof, which is a very powerful light, on the outside of zer anpin. And what it's doing, the Gegolta is also a Kli. So in its sense, it's forming this Kli that way. Hamavur behemshech SIFRA the, and he says that's going to be the next one. Sounds exciting. Vaf be'etz chaim. So also he says in the Eitz Chaim, Shom over there, it says da. Kibutzin the kardanusa. So what is that? Behind the nitzutza the isibe idrabba. So it means it's the sparks. Shom. Va'afik bebutzin in the kardanusa chad nitzutza ad kan. So he's quoting. B'chein ku b'shar mamari Rashbi, another quote kan. Zaldashonu, the nitzutza is damin. So what does that phrase mean? There's a nitzutza that's ready to go. That's what it sounds like to me. Waiting in the wings there. Pirish nitzutza butzina in the kardanusa. That when he says that this word butzina, and it goes with the word nitzutza. They both go together. He enters them both with an aleph, which is like Aramaic. Well, I don't know, whatever I was saying. It's Aramaicizing it, the kardanusa. Now, once again, what does kardanusa mean? I'm not sure. I don't think I ever looked that up. V'hu gevura de erik anpin, and what is it fact? We're talking about the gevura de erik anpin. V'avi redak yochu b'chu chesed de erik anpin. And the two of them come together. So he says, he gives a side reference. Okay, so I'm not sure what that said. Abba ve'ima aim shorsham chachma ubabina chubabchem nignu zechu b'chesed gevura, and inside of them. So he says Abba ve'ima are the root. I don't know what their root is. Chachma and bina. They are the root of chachma and bina. Ubabchem nignazim chesed gevura, or maybe chachma and bina is the root of the concept of Abba ve'ima. I don't know what that language. And inside of them is hidden the chesed of erik anpin. That chesed is called avira dakya, but also there's something else. The kardanusa is chavra yacha. This is where the two of them are joined together in one. They're like one. So he says, Boltzina, this word, let me see if I got this right. The erik anpin, okay, I don't know, I kind of lost the place. While they were hidden inside of Abba ve'ima. These forces that come from erik anpin, and they bring it out onto V'holtzia gulgalta the zer anpin. That's not what it said. It doesn't say onto. So they bring it out, and they bring out the Gegolta de Zer Anpin. First we had the Mocha de Zer Anpin, Toch Abba Ve'ima, they were inside of Abba Ve'ima, Besod Pnimi Umaki. Once more, these are the Mocha de Zer Betoch Abba Ve'ima, they were inside of Abba Ve'ima, and they were Pnimi and Makif, and we just saw how the Makif works. It comes out, and therefore it's a Makif. So let me move this along a little bit. Before that can happen. That's when this before that. Maybe I started getting a little off balance here. Let's go to Vihine Nisboyer La'el Kitachida Rabahoya Bechinas Amochin Zer Anpin Toch Abba Ve'ima Besod Penimi Umaki. No problem. V'nimsa ki kodem shehiskel bechinas Golgotha, before the aspect of the Golgotha comes about. El Zer Anpin Atzmo Hikdim Alecha bechinas Amochim first has to come into Zer Anpin. Before he can have a Golgotha, he has to have Mochim. Ela bechinas Amochim HaMakifim Elyonim, not the beginning of Mochim. He has to have Elyonim, because the Golgotha is made out of these, by these Makifim. So just like we see that the Hesed and the Gevurah of Zer Anpin is called this refined light, or this very clean light, pure light, who boots into the Kardanus, and we also have that phrase. So these Mochin are also going to call it what? Nimski b'techida Rabbi Eluch HaMochim HaNikra Chavira Dakya, or both into the Kardanisa besod Makifim. So first they come out, they are the secret of Makifim, v'achar kach na'asa Golgotha de Zer Anpin, and then after that you're going to have a Golgotha de Zer Anpin. Now he's not describing, I'm not happy here with this setup here. Let's see what I got. Okay, let's see. Ki dechida Rabinavka v'na'asa HaMochim HaNikra Chavira Dakya im Netzuta, the Iskala Rabbi Bechon Kamosha Omar, like it says over there, Sham. He says, v'achar kach na'asa, then they na'asu, it is made, v'nafik mekocham chad Golgotha, v'achar kach na'asu. Na'asu, I guess means that they become Makifim, and comes from their power, the two of them, chad Golgotha hananase achar hamochim, that is made after the mochin appear, hamakivim ayonim ad kan divrei Eitz Chaim. That's what the Eitz Chaim says. V'ayin sham od. And get over there, you could see some more. Eider hamakivim ayonim ad kan. So he says achar hamochim. Okay, ad kan. Divrei Eitz Chaim says V'kain Rei B'shar Ma'amari Rashbi. Also see it over there. I'm trying to hint up a piece there. Now, according to that, now this boyer kan befnim Maimer HaSifra D'Tzniuta kan, the one we're dealing with now, Avira Nachvi Min Nitzutza Ezdamin. These two places, these two places. Yeah, they're two different places. One's Chesed, one's Gevurah. But he used by the Gevurah, he says it's damen. It means it's prepared, or it means it's there, it's ready to go. Chad Gugolta Ispeshet Besitroi. The Iron, what is that phrase? Ispeshet Besitroi. In that place, this is where you see this happening. The Iron B'mochan the Mekifim, and now we're talking about those. Shemikocham Nafet Chad Gugolta Kankana. Also there's really roots here that are inside of them. Which causes the coming out. That is what that is. He says that the boots into the Kardanusa and this Avira are actually Shagorman Yitzias Mochin the Bekivim Alalum. Shehem Hamshachas Chesed the Gevurah, because what's happening is that you have a Chesed Gevurah that's pouring out of Erik Anpin, and it's going into Abba Ve'ima. V'chein zivug abba v'ima that causes the yichud to take with the hamshecha b'mochin ha'ela to bring out these mochin, which actually they would say that the makifim, the part that goes out, right? Because where's it coming from? It's coming from there. V'chein Rabbi Afashah, so he's going to have something over there. Shabir the Iri kan be'in hamshachas chesed the gevor the erikan ben. That's what it's talking about. La'abba v'ima chana. So understand that inside of all reality and all the things that we see and do, whatever, is Erikanpin. Erikanpin and the Butzin and the Kardanisa, and also this Avira. Ukumo came Ray Bira Gros, so now we're going to see the Gros. We're going to see it in Hadras and also in the Hadras Melech. Should be armed the Ivre Kan Be'in in Zivug Abba Ve'ima. So what this is talking about is the concept of the zivug of Abba Ve'ima. Why? What do we need then to make a yichud bar? Because the zivug that takes place between Abba and Ima, it produces Maim Dochrin, and that is going to come out as a result, and it's going to go into that's where these MAKIFIM come from. And that's where he says that's where the Golgotha comes from. And we'll see more about it, and we're going to finish up now. Ray Ba'orim Khan, we're going to have what to do, and Mitzvah Shem, I'll find a place to learn over there. Bioli's also moving. He's got all kinds of things. Yeah, I never send you pictures of the kids. I'm going to send you, his kids. He has these miracle kids in our heart. So.
For sure.
Yeah, Mitzvah Shem. Kol Tov, Rabbi.